What's up, everybody? I am your ultraviolet siren and your favorite indie hype girl, Kakeface Karlee, and welcome back to another episode of X Brand Unleashed. This is episode 28, and you guys, I am very excited for this one. We have more representation from the Southern ultraviolet scene. This man has been on Smoky Mountain Wrestling, TWE, Anarchy Wrestling, IW Deep South, Mid South, CZW, XPW, everywhere. He is a former PWA Heritage Champion, Tag Team Champion, TPW Heavyweight Champion. He goes by the Death Wish, Suicide King. He is also a Tournament of Horror winner, amongst so many other accolades. Ladies and gentlemen, Brad Cash. How are you?
I'm good. You really popped me with that PWA Heritage title. That one got me. That one's kind of it's a long story but a funny story, and I really enjoy when people bring that one up.
I would love to hear that one real quick before we get started.
Oh God, it's a little rough, but um, I get ribbed a lot about this one, because it's one of those stories where it's not funny but funny. Um,
Okay.
so where that show was, it was in Carrollton, Georgia, and Carrollton, Georgia is one of the most racist towns I've ever been in. It's made the news several times for being extremely racist,
Mm.
stuff like that. And I was coming down there to do a run in and set up an angle with Sal Renaro. Um, at the time, my one of my best friends from high school would cut my hair, and I was having to cut it a little bit different because some of my hair had gotten cut out in a match. So he faded my hair, and the Suicide Squad movie with Jared Leto was real big at the time, so I was wearing a grill. So me having a fade and a grill, um, apparently, according to the people of Carrollton, Georgia, changed my race. And
Okay.
I, uh, I jumped the guardrail and I jumped Sal and just started beating him up. And all of a sudden, I start hearing like a bunch of racial slurs get yelled.
Oh God.
And I'm looking around, 'cause, I'm like, who they yelling at? Because I know it's a little dark in here, but for the viewers that don't know me, I am Caucasian, very. Uh,
Right.
uh, um, I actually turned the overhead light off because it was reflecting off of me, and I was like, "Man, you won't be able to see me in this." Um, but
Thank you for clarifying, by the way, just in case for everybody.
um, but yeah, and it took probably a good 30 very loud racial slurs before I realized they were yelling at me.
Oh
And I looked at Sal and I was like, "Is this for real?" And he was like, "I think so." And I said, "What what do we do?" And he said, "I don't know. This is weird." So we wrap it up. We get to the back and we're sitting there, and the booker, the promoter there was really cool. His name was Shane Knowles, and then the booker was one of my friends named Matt Hankins, and he is like the Samuel L. Jackson of promoters. He gives like the best speeches before a show, and Shane Knowles is like, "Man, that was some crazy heat," and and then Matt Hankins goes, "We got to run with it." And we were like, "What do you mean?" And Matt Hankins just goes, "Well, Brad's back now. That's what we're running with." And
no.
it was like, except I'm not. And and he looks at all the black guys in the locker room and he's like, "What do you guys think?" And they're all like, "Yeah, we got to do it. We got to do it." So there was one guy, who's one of my best friends in the business, big dude. I love him to death. His name's Jeter out of Atlanta. He was the only one that was like, "No, absolutely not."
Maybe not, I don't know.
And, and then and then they were like. And they were like, well, now that Jeter's saying no, you have to. And I was like, that's fair. Um, so um, I never said a word. I didn't change like my speech patterns or anything. Like I really didn't change me. All I did was change my entrance music to "They Don't Care About Us" by Michael Jackson, and this crowd hated me. And then I
I
won
can
the belt.
imagine.
I won the belt, and uh, I'm very known for asking forgiveness and not permission. And I wrestled that whole match with a set of tape in my pants. And I took the belt, the Heritage belt, and I put a big X over it with the tape. And and I was the champion there for several months. I mean, every show I was getting called just a ton of racial slurs, and Hankins was in the back laughing, and he was like, Brad, I'm black and I'm a heel, and how are you getting more black heat than me? And I'm like, dude, I don't know. I don't know what's up in this town. And we went, I mean, it was bad. It was rough. It was uncomfortably rough sometimes.
Oh
And
my god, poor thing.
I called New Jack about it. He would just laugh. He was like, you gotta keep going. You gotta keep doing it.
Hell
And
yeah.
he's like, you should tell him to bring me in to beat you. But finally, there was one show. It was the big blow off between me and Sal, and I forgot my pants. Like I wrestle in a singlet usually, but I wear pants over them, and I forgot them. These legs are as bright as the brightest star you'll ever see. And I'm walking to the ring, and this lady that has cussed me out, she's called me every racial slur you can think of, stops me and goes, "Excuse me." And I went, "Yeah." And she goes, are you white?" I went, "Yeah." She went, "This whole time?" I went, "Yeah." And
No, I just decided.
she turns around to her husband and goes, "Hey, he's white." And her husband yells, "No kidding, this whole time." And I'm like, "Yeah, guys."
This whole
And
time.
and then she just changes her whole demeanor, and she's like, "I'm so sorry," she said, "for that misunderstanding. Why why did you call it the Not My Heritage belt? Why did you start calling it the Not My Heritage belt and put an X over it?" And I said, "So I'm from Tennessee. This is Georgia. This isn't my heritage." And she goes, "That makes so much sense." And she goes, "Well, good luck to you."
That
I walk up,
is such a wild story.
I get in the ring with Sal, and I was like, "Sal, I'm sorry, but I think I just turned babyface." And he said, "How? Did they find out you were white?" And I went, "Yeah."
Who knew that
But
changing races would change your if you're a heel or a baby face? That
um,
is
and
wild.
none of that is like televised. It's not. It wasn't streamed or anything. So like that you brought that up just really popped me.
Well, I'm glad I did. Oh my goodness. I mean, besides that, I mean, you've done quite a bit of things within your career. I want to take it back before we get started within your career. Like, tell me what got you into like becoming like a wrestling fan in the first place. You know, what were your first memories? You know, first people that you liked that got you to become a wrestling fan.
Um, what's so weird is my first wrestling memory isn't actually from wrestling, but it was Rocky 3 when Hulk
Oh
Hogan
wow,
plays
okay.
Thunder Lips in it, and I was like, because my family was, especially my mom's side, were all boxers, and
Really?
everybody was on like, and then my granddad had all girls, and they just didn't really have women's boxing in the area, so it didn't really transition down. And but everybody was a boxing fan. My dad was a boxing fan. Mom's side of the family were boxing fans, and Um, so I was just watching Rocky 3 when I was a kid, and then there was Hulk Hogan as Thunder Lips, and I was like, "Whoa, that guy's huge!" And then I started seeing him on other stuff, and I was like, "Hey, like that's the guy from Rocky 3," and then just kept kind of watching from there. So I guess my very first favorite was Hulk Hogan. I was one of those kids that like it meant business when you ripped your shirt off and it was time to fight. Got me in so much trouble at church camp.
I felt that so much. Oh my god.
But I think my first like favorite, like once I started like actually watching wrestling, my first favorite was Kevin Nash.
Okay.
I still have a giant place in my heart for Kevin Nash, even though sometimes Kevin Nash outside of wrestling says some really dumb shit. Yeah,
He sure has.
but yeah, that he was definitely because like I think he was the first bad guy that I saw that I was like, man, I want to be that guy.
I like that.
Yeah, and it just went from there.
Very cool. So, like, of course, you mentioned, like Hogan and you mentioned Kevin Nash. Were you someone that was more, like Team WCW, more Team WWF growing up?
So my wife makes fun of me for this. So for years, wrestling to me was just wrestling. Like if I went and saw Smoky Mountain Wrestling in Knoxville or saw WWE or WCW, to me it was all the same. I didn't realize that there was different groups until I was
I love that.
probably
That's
too
so
old to
cool.
not realize that. Um, yeah, so I would definitely say like probably more team WWF uh because I could just see it more. Um,
Fair.
but uh but WCW had more of my favorites at the time on it. Like
Okay.
it was a real mixed bag.
Very fair. So, when did you end up like discovering, like watching more of like the ultra violent side of wrestling?
Um, oh man, it's a tough one because I remember the Dudleys uh, when I was a kid and like watching them put people through tables, which was always cool to me, and of course Mankind. But then as far as seeing like ultra violence, my parents, um, man, some of the younger audience isn't gonna know what this is, but you may not either. They used to have one of those illegal black boxes that that you could hook up to your TV and get like a million channels. And
Mm-hmm.
I was scrolling through and I found ECW and I saw New Jack on it actually, and I was like, oh hey, I remember watching him at Smoky Mountain Wrestling in Knoxville. Like, huh? Wonder what he's stabbing people. This is cool. Oh man, like oh man, this Raven guy is really cool. Oh, he just beat the shit out of that guy with barbed wire. Like, what is this? And then it just kept. I don't even know year wise what it was, to be honest. It all kind of blends together for me there. And I want to say that like my when I finally became like that was what I loved watching was the Edge and Mick Foley WrestleMania match. Edge going through a flaming table made me go get a table with a bunch of my friends and light it on fire, and I just wanted to jump through it. So
Oh my god. That's
that,
awesome.
yeah, that's about how it went for me, I guess.
Did y'all end up doing that with the table?
Oh, 100%.
I love that.
100%. Yeah, we had a little group of kids that we all backyarded with when we were teenagers, and I was like, "Hey guys, I got this table and I got lighter fluid. Nobody's got to do anything. Just get out of my way."
Oh, that's perfect. So when did you have that light bulb moment of like, you know what? I really want to pursue this.
Um, we had a local show that was close to my high school, that I would go watch. I started going when I was I was a football player, and my junior year, I got injured and was out for the whole season. So I had a lot of free time to do because there wasn't a point in me going to practice.
Right.
Um, so they had a show that ran on Tuesdays and Thursdays. They would kind of alternate, and I went and tiny little dance hall. If it was packed out, that meant there was maybe 100 people in it. And
Okay.
they had a match. There was a guy named Sean Schultz and another guy named Jim Miller, and they wrestled a couple other guys from Nashville and fought all over the place. And I was like, this is wild. This is this is so cool. And then they brought Jerry Lynn in, and I was like, whoa, Jerry Lynn, like that's kind of crazy. And him and Sean did like a whole feud there, and then they brought Sabu in, and I was like, man, these guys are coming to like this local place. Like, how do I get
Wow.
into this? And um, and then like everybody was like, no, you're a football player. You're gonna go play college football and all that. So I kind of put it on hold. Um, Played my senior year, got hurt again at the end of the season, and was just trying to find something to do and started thinking about wrestling. And my mom, of all people, is the one that got the hookup for me to start training.
Okay, go mom.
Yeah, it's the weirdest thing. She just randomly tells me one day when I walk in the house, she was like, "You said you wanted to try wrestling, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then she was like, well, one of my friends at work is a wrestler, and she can put you in touch with the guy that trained her." I was like, "Okay, cool. We'll just see
Oh
what happens."
wow.
And
Wow, what are the odds?
yeah, and at the time, like I was just trying to fill a void at the time. Like I didn't think I would go anywhere with it. So to me, it was, like I just want to do like these local charity shows that they're doing. I just, want to scratch this itch and, you know, see what happens. Not that I wasn't taking it serious. I just didn't think that, you know, somebody from where I was from could go anywhere.
So where did you start training? Who ended up training you?
I started training in Sevierville, Tennessee, and my head trainer, he was um he was real big in like our area, and he had done like some enhancement talent stuff for like WCW and stuff like that. But his name
Okay,
was
cool.
he went by the Wild Man Jeff Anderson, and he's acted in a few like movies and TV shows and stuff. And honestly, like I credit all of my mic skills, all of my talking while I'm wrestling to him, because he was so big on like not worrying about spots and stuff like that, but more like get people invested. Um, and he was a very hard trainer, uh, but he wasn't abusive. It was hard. We started with I swear this number changes every time. I just remember it was an even number, but it's somewhere between 8 and 16 people. And that first week, I was like, man, I suck. I'm the worst one here. Um, I was also the youngest. I was freshly 18, and everyone else was in their 20s. One guy was 30. Um, and I was like, okay. I was like, I'm gonna come back next week. Like I'm paying for it. I'm gonna at least come back and you know try it. And when I showed up that second week, there was four of us, and
Oh wow.
I was like, oh okay. And then a few weeks later, there was three of us. Then there was two, and then I ended up being the only one finishing out.
That's amazing.
Jeff was like, well, you still suck, but at least you don't give up.
Oh my
So,
god.
No, Jeff was good to me. He was. I got nothing but good stuff to say about my trainer.
That's good. So like after you had like training everything, do you remember like having your first match and breaking into like the independent scene and everything?
Yes, yes, I do. So I did a run-in debut before I did my first match, and in front of the packed house. Um, it was just one little small thing I did just to get me some heat and get this other guy over. Um, I was so nervous before that first match. Uh, I was puking, I was pacing, I was like, is this gonna be
Jeez.
okay? Is this gonna be okay? And I had a terrible gimmick. Jeff let me come up with my own gimmick, and it's bad. Somebody should have stepped in and said
What
stop.
was his gimmick?
It was so I had Kevin Nash like looking gear, like it was modeled kind of like his, but I wore face paint from like House of a Thousand Corpses, and
Okay.
uh, Jeff was like, no matter what, you cannot talk because at the time I had a really high pitched voice, and it was my I had a worse Southern accent than I do now. It was bad. I was 18, and it was bad. He was like, no matter what you do, just don't talk. So
God.
I was a non-talking. I had one tattoo, so like I would paint tattoos on me, except I couldn't remember the patterns, so they were different every time.
Fair.
It was bad. My name was Armageddon.
Right on.
It was so bad, but Jeff was like, no, he's like, if you're gonna fail, you're gonna fail. So he's like, you'll learn from it. That first match was at the Sevier County Fairgrounds, and it was in front of about 12 people. Uh, my young wrestling obsessed 13-year-old sister was in the crowd and heckled me the whole match. Um, but it was fun. It was. I've seen a lot of first matches go really bad, and I wrestled a guy named SoCal Kid, and I for a first match, like I couldn't have wanted anything more out of it. It was very solid. Uh, my third match had 900 people at it, so I went from
Oh my
12 to
God. Wow.
900. Yeah, and I was
That's a hell of a jump. Oh my
yeah,
God.
it was. It was only about 4 weeks later too, so it was like, oh man, this is nuts. Um, but
Like literally living the dream at that point of just having that, even just like 900 people, that's amazing.
oh yeah, it was insane. Because I mean, especially being down here, and that was also at the fairgrounds, but just down here, we didn't stream stuff, um, and it wasn't as oversaturated with wrestling at the time. So when there was
Hmm.
wrestling, like, and there wasn't a lot of stuff to do down here, that's where everybody went.
Hmm.
Um, so
That's
yeah, I got to learn really quick that those big crowds are not always there, and those little crowds are not always there. So it was a good
and I think
experience.
and I think that's fascinating of just being able to have that same bit of energy, whether it be a crowd with 12 people or 900. That's a hell of a talent to have.
Right.
In the midst of all this, when did you incorporate, doing more of like the deathmatch stuff? When did that start happening for you?
I had a itch very early on,
Okay.
but it wasn't a thing around here. If you did anything remotely deathmatchy, everybody just assumed you couldn't work, and they just got rid of you pretty much. Me and SoCal, we built that matchup. we from that first match we built for about a year, and we did a street fight, which was about as close as they'd let me get. Um,
Okay.
and it was very tame, but I was like, oh man, we're using chairs and tables and stuff. But I I left after that match because at the time I was enlisting in the army, and uh, when I came back, I told everybody I was like, I don't want to be Armageddon. I was like that was bad. I realized that was a bad idea, and I was like, can I just be Brad? And someone was like, your last name is really long, so if you get that printed on stuff, it's going to cost more money. And I was like, well, my granddad's side of the family's last name is Cash. They were like, there you go, that's 8 letters. And
Perfect.
I was like, okay, cool. So that was Brad Cash, and um, came back still just traditional wrestling, but started traveling more. Um, wrestled Chase Stevens one night, and they wanted a chair in the finish. And Chase, another one of my best friends, uh, he's wrestled for everyone. Um, and he's at the time we didn't know each other, but he liked me, and he was having me no sell everything. Like he'd hit me with something, then he'd be like, "Just get up." And I was like, "Okay, cool." Then he hit me with this chair that we didn't realize was broken, and it
Oh
uh
man.
it it scalped me all the way across the top. I'm assuming that since he's made me get up from everything else, that I'm supposed to just get up. And I stand up, and I'm just full crimson mask and just staring at him. And Chase is like, no, no, just lay down.
Like,
And I was like, oh man, I messed up something. And we got to the back. Uh, I didn't even know I was bleeding. Uh, I I thought I bit my tongue because I spit at one point and saw blood, and I was like, oh man, I must have bit my tongue. And then I saw myself in a mirror, and I just started laughing. And everybody was like, well, what? They're like,
that's a,
why are you laughing? And I was like, dude, I didn't even know I was bleeding. And they had a hardcore guy on the show, and they're trying to figure out, everything, and they actually have my head peeled open, and you could see the bones. And their hardcore guy, tough as shit. Like I would put him against 90% of the workers in a shoot fight. Walks in the
damn.
room, looks at me, turns and pukes. And he was like, "Oh my God!" He's like, "He's dying right in front of us."
He's oh my god.
Chase is like apologizing to everybody. Chase is like, "I swear to God, I didn't do it on purpose." And I'm just over here like, "Fuck, man." I lived with my dad at the time, and I was like, "Dude, Dad is gonna be so fucking pissed when I get home." Uh, because he's like, he told me if I started doing stupid shit, he was gonna kick me out. Like that was our rule for me
Oh
staying there for a
shit.
little bit.
And I say,
Uh,
hey dad, I did like the stupidest thing, by the
yeah.
way.
So I lied and told him a box fell on my head. Like I was like 19, maybe 20 at this point. Yeah, I told him a box fell on my head, and uh, I don't know if Dad believed it, but Mom did. And but uh, they were like, "You want to go to the hospital?" Like the guy that's showing. I said no. They were like, "Well, you can't just leave your head open." And I was like, "What other options we have?" And he was like, "We could super glue it." I went, "Okay, cool, let's do that." And he was
Oh my
like,
god.
and he said, "Man," he's like, "I got new skin and super glue," and he's like, "We can't find any alcohol." And I just handed him a lemon, and I said, "Try this." So they squirted the lemon on my head, which really fucking sucked. And
Mm.
now that I'm older, realize probably didn't actually do anything except hurt. Um, and we put the new skin on my head, which also sucked, and then glued my head shut, and it glued uneven, so there's a little bump still to this day on top of my head. And the next
On
shot
top
is
of it
on.
all, it was glued uneven.
Um, and
Jesus.
I all the promoters told me to take like a couple weeks to let it heal before I'd come back, and I came back and the crowd started chanting hardcore cash. So that kind of still wasn't doing death matches, but that started putting me in more bloody matches. Um,
Okay.
Especially in this area because they were like, I remember this one guy was like, "I'll pay you extra if you can do that again, just without the scalping." And I was like, "Okay, cool."
Minus the scalping. We don't need that again.
Yeah, I don't think I did my first death match till 2014, uh,
Okay.
and it was with Tank. Um, uh,
Whoa.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
That's a hell of a first like full blown death match.
It was supposed to be with a guy named Nino Spark, and because I at the time like I don't know, everybody hits roadblocks uh all the time in wrestling where they're like, do I really want to go on? What I want to do? Like I'm not getting these calls, and
Yeah.
I'm still in my kind of like mid 20s at this point, early to mid 20s, and this guy named Nino, he was like, he was. I used to call it the closest thing you could get to wrestling homicide without wrestling homicide. Um, he was real cool. We got really close, and he was like, "Will you do a death match with me?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." I was like, "I've never done one, but I've done other stuff." And he was like, "I want me and you to go to CZW and do Tournament of Death and all this stuff." And I was like, in my head, I'm like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." So I was like, "We'll do one." And weeks before it was supposed to happen, he died.
Oh my
And
god.
so I was just kind of like, okay. I was like, well, I said I'd do one. So I still want to do one, uh, but I don't know who to do it with. And then Tank actually reached out to one of the promotions and was like, I'll do one with him. We'd never met at that point. And, we actually met on his memorial show, and we did the death match the next time we were on the show together. So it was a very tame death match compared to the stuff I would do later, but it was a lot for me because I was used to like getting slammed on thumbtacks or something like that, not like getting curb stomped into thumbtacks or getting full ropes with
Right.
barbed wire, run all over me and stuff. It was he definitely eased me into it, but still made it more violent than other matches I've been in. So
Very nice.
that was a long round way of answering your question.
No, that's a perfect answer. And I think you actually answered a lot of bullet points, like you had mentioned, like with being a like adding deathmatch, you're kind of afraid of kind of like the whole reputation with how like if you do deathmatch, then you're not a good worker and stuff like that, which I think is just absolutely garbage because I think people still think that to this day, and I think it's stupid.
Right.
But you know, you after doing this, like you have this death match with Tank and everything. I mean, you've done a lot of amazing things. I mean, you've been in a lot of tournaments of death. You've been in a Carnage Cup. I mean, you've done Kings of the Death Match. I mean, walk me through all of that. Like you've had a really cool career.
Again, it was just one of those things. Man, I don't know. A lot of people think like I'm really full of myself. Sometimes I am. Sometimes it's like, but a lot of times it's like a defensive thing. Um, or sometimes it's just my character. Like I used to just not come out of character, um, especially on Facebook. But I've just always had that mentality where I wanted to be somebody special, but I never felt like I was somebody special. Like just like somebody's side character is kind of how I always felt. And uh, so like man, I didn't think I was ever gonna get to do a deathmatch tournament, even when I started doing death matches, because uh, first one I got asked to be on, it was one of the Prince of Deaths, and they were like, "Can you be here?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, here we go." And then I'm like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Okay, it's tomorrow," and I was like, "Well, then no, like no, I can't." Um, and then I was supposed to be on one that Corporal Robinson was booking. That was going to be my first one. Big field. I was supposed to wrestle Homeless Jimmy in the first round, and then it turned out like there was some shady stuff going on, and the whole thing got shut down. So
Mm.
then, then I was actually booked for the next Prince of Death, and my vehicle at the time wasn't great, but I was going to drive it if I had to. And this other promoter I worked for, he's a big piece of shit. He was like, I can drive you up there. I said, "Oh man, thank you." I was like, I'll put my truck in the shop then if you don't mind the drive. He's like, "No, no, not at all." And then he was like, so he said, he said something about like, uh, so Ian's gonna pay me for driving you up, right? I was like, no. Like, and this is something he asked me like that morning. I was like, no, Ian's not gonna pay you. I was like, I'll pay you for driving me up if you
Right.
ask, like that's fine. And then he was like, well, can Ian just give me a shout out or something on there or give me a promotion a shout out? I was like, dude, this is my first time working for Ian. I was like, I doubt that's gonna happen.
Right. You're
And
still trying to like get your foot in with this. Like you can't like it's hard to be like, oh,
yeah,
by the way, not just me, but let me hype this person up too. Like that's so
yeah.
awkward.
And then he was like, okay. He was like, well, I'll be there in a minute. I was like, okay, cool. I waited 3 hours and he never showed up.
No.
So I had to call Ian and say, hey, I'm I'm not gonna make it. I don't have a way there. Uh, and so now I look like a jackass. And then I mean, I know people give Ian shit, and it's rightfully deserved a lot of times. But he hit me up like a month later, and he said, "Hey, he's like, I got too many people putting your name in my ear. He's like, I'm gonna give you one more fucking chance to show up. He's like, I don't care if you gotta fucking start walking here on the Saturday before to get here." He was like, "Get here." And I messaged Bryant Woods and I was like, hey, we're both from the South. Is there any way we can meet up and ride together? Um, again, it's just my my vehicle at the time really sucked, and I just didn't want to get stranded. And Bryant was like, yeah.
Right.
So we meet up, and I get there, and uh, here I am, first deathmatch tournament, first time at IWA, first time all this shit, and then he's like, "Okay, you're wrestling in a four-way in the first round, and it's you, Bryant Woods, Matt Tremont, and Jeff Cannonball." And I'm like, "Okay, uh, that's crazy. Okay."
That's pretty
And
heavy. Like that's heavy duty for like a match. Oh my god.
yeah, and they're like, it was 100 light tubes match, 200 light tubes, something like that. And they were like, as long as Tremont's over, we don't care the order. And everybody else knew each other. Nobody knew me. Even Brian didn't really know me. We met that morning, and they're all talking, and I'm just kind of sitting over here like, do I interject? What do I do? And and Jeff Cannonball comes over to me, and he's like, "Hey man, what do you want to do?" And I'm like, man, I just figured, y'all have done these before, so I'm just kind of along for the ride. I was like, and he was like, no, no, man. He's like, this is big. Get your stuff in. And I was like, well, you guys mind if I'm just at heels? And they're like, yeah. And I called one spot, and it was the first spot I ever trended over. I didn't think it was actually going to get over as big as it did. But I told them, I was like, at some point, let's all get in the ring. Like after a while, I was like, I'm going to duck and dodge the whole match as much as I can. And I was like, at some point, let's get in there where everybody has a light tube but me. And you all just kind of turn and look at me. I was like, I'm gonna duck one, turn, flip you off, say fuck you. Duck the next one, turn, flip you off, say fuck you. Duck the last one, and yell fuck all three of you, and turn around, and all three of you hit me at the same time.
I
And
love that.
they were like, yeah, fuck it, let's do it. They were all like, hell yeah, a spot where we're not getting hit with something. That's cool. So we did it. I don't even think I had a Twitter at the time. And I get sent something, and it was like a Twitter link, and all it said was hashtag fuck all three of you, and it was just that spot. Um, and that became my spot for like the next several tournaments or death matches I
Nice.
was in with multiple people, is to just duck everything and then get hit with everything at once. So it was, yeah, that first one. I've been really lucky, like with stuff like that, to just get really good opportunities, and that way I knew like when a shitty one came along, like not to get as down about it,
Yeah.
because sometimes the good ones happen for no reason, sometimes the bad ones happen for no reason.
Right. With a lot of the ones that you've been a part of, I mean, what's some of the like the favorite like um tournaments that you've been a part of? Or maybe like your favorite one that you've been a part of?
Tour- Tournament of Death.
Mm.
Uh, that was one when me and Nino talked about it. I felt like it was like it was like the end of like a really long journey. Because going into it, like I was really emotional because of that, and me and Lane had just had a falling out with Ian Rotten, uh, and uh, the last thing that me and Ian had said in the conversation is I had messaged him when he was getting called out for not paying people, and you know IWA falling apart, blah 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 blah. And I told him, I said, hey, I was like, I know it's bad, and I was like, I know you owe a lot of people money, and you need to pay them, but I do want you to know that I appreciate everything you did for me. And then I get this long text back that pretty much is like, well, I didn't put you on King of Death this year because you're just good as a backup plan. He was like, he was like, you're a good hand to come off the bench when I don't have somebody.
Oh my god.
And it was like the only reason you were here this last run is because your wife was over and I wanted to book her and you traveled with her. And I was like, first of all, we take our bookings separate. Like she was a wrestler before I met her, and vice versa. So we don't half the time we don't travel together. Um, but and I didn't even respond. I just read it and just kind of sat there. And I screenshot it and sent it to Lane. And I was just like, well, you know, that's a that's a great way to look at my career, I guess. I just got really because man, I am one of those people like I act like stuff doesn't bother me. Shit bothers me all the time. Uh, because especially when I get something like that, like everywhere I have been, it all goes out the window in my head because then I start thinking like, was I just a backup on that one? Did they want somebody else? And blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And I get hit up to come to CZW, and I almost didn't go. Like I was telling Lane about it, I was like, man, I was like, they probably wanted like fucking Schlack or somebody, and he couldn't make it, whatever. And they were like, no, no, we want you here. They're like, Necro's been putting you over. Lane's been putting you over. They're like, we want you up here. So I said, okay. And I got there and I look at who else is on the card and I'm like, holy shit, this is gonna be one of the hardest tournaments I've ever had to try and stand out from other people. Um, and we just we went out there and we just wrestled. Me and Lane have always really clicked when we got in the ring together, and it's always been something big. Um, and we go out and we just I don't know the whole thing felt like a movie to me. Like like it was weird. I described it to one guy when I hit him with the explosive bat in it. That was one that was something I always wanted to use. Uh, and when I did it, it was so loud. Um, kind of because I ribbed him a little bit. Lane doesn't like explosives, but he was like, you know what? I need to get over it. Go ahead and let them put the bomb on the bat. And I went, okay, cool. And then they walked up and they asked me, they said, you want one bomb or two? And I looked and Lane was off somewhere and I went, put two bombs on it. And, and look at he wasn't mad, but he was like, God damn, it's so loud. But when that happened, I kind of froze for a minute and just like all this stuff like ran to my head real quick, like just like flashback scenes of like all this shit. And Lane is laying there, and the ref actually yells, "You should pin him." And I was like, "Oh yeah, fuck," because I just forgot where I was at for a second.
Oh yeah, fun.
and um, so that one's gonna be my favorite for a long time. I think it's the first tournament that I ever just openly started crying as soon as the match was over. Like didn't even make it out of the ring. I just started crying right then.
I love
Um,
that. I love the emotion that deathmatch wrestling really has. I think that's one of my favorite parts. Absolutely.
yeah, I got a couple of those moments. 'Cause I mean, at the end of the day, I'm still a fan too.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do this shit if I didn't, like enjoy, grow up watching wrestling. And I was doing a extra spot one night for I don't know if we're allowed to say there. I don't know how that stuff works anymore, but the two W's followed by a vowel. And I got to get in the ring and I was just doing like a little tryout match, and they're simple, they're not like you don't go crazy hard in those, and because they just want to see if you can work. And I gave the guy an arm drag, and I just looked up and started looking at the jumbotron, and just deer in the headlights for a second, and the ref was like, "Hey, you want to stop fucking watching yourself and finish the match?" I was like, "Oh yeah,
Sorry, I was freaking out. Like, holy shit, that's me.
yeah." Um, but I've had a lot of those little silly moments like that. I don't know, sometimes like I don't know, it just feels like it was like somebody else's life, and I'm just kind of watching it happen, I guess. So I don't
Wow. I mean, like, you've seriously done a lot of really cool things. Tell me about winning Tournament of Horror.
That one was interesting because I didn't know I was winning till uh, till they were writing the card on the board.
Oh my
Uh,
God.
I knew I was in the finals. Like I knew it was coming down to me and Tank because that was the Wild Side building, the Anarchy building. There was so much wrestling history in that building, and we had wrestled there for years, but they had never had a deathmatch tournament.
Right.
Um, so we knew it was going to be us in the finals because we were the two, I guess, most notorious deathmatch guys from his era and my era there, and And I think they even asked us who we wanted over, and I don't know, somehow we decided on me. Um, but that was, excuse me, my stepson gave me some spicy ass burrito that he made at work for years, and it's still hot. But uh, Tank always cracks me up because Tank is like one of the greats as far as deathmatch wrestling and
Oh
wrestling.
yeah.
Tank's a fantastic wrestler. Um, but uh, we I do my two matches. He does his two matches, and we come out for that final, and I'm just fucking covered. Come into the ring. I'm already covered head to toe. I'm bled like a motherfucker in these other two matches, and Tank comes out with like one cut. I was like, motherfucker. And and uh, they put you could definitely tell this was their first deathmatch tournament because they put so much shit in that main event. Like we couldn't move for like the first couple of minutes of it because there was so much shit everywhere.
Oh my god. So it's like a minefield full of fuckery.
Yeah, he Tank so gives me shit about it. He pushes me very gently into the ropes that have carpet strips and barbed wire and all that shit on it. Like very gingerly pushes me into it. All right, now do me. And I said, okay. And I started laughing. He said, what? And I just bull rushed him in. And he was like, you fucker. And he just punched me like, hey, punched me right in the eye. But that's always kind of our dynamic. And we did the match. And I was actually getting married the week after. And I had told my wife, I was like, I promise I won't fuck my face up. Well, of course, my face is just covered. And Hank gets on the microphone and finds my wife in the crowd and went, sorry I fucked his face up, Sarah, and handed me the microphone.
That's
But it was cool. Like I was glad to be the first, and now that the building's gone, the only deathmatch tournament winner ever in that building. So
wow. How amazing. Another thing that I really like is that you were for like a little over like 320 something days. You were the TPW heavyweight champion. Tell me about your time at TPW.
um so I I just kind of came back to wrestling at the time because I left wrestling in the middle of 2019 'cause I had a really good job at the time, and I was on pace to be making like $50 an hour,
Oh wow.
basically do nothing. I just had to work there for like a year or so, just put time in to get to get moved up, and I was already making quite a bit at the time, anyways. 'Cause I worked at a nuclear lab, and that was one I left off of our conversation earlier. But then COVID hit, and I got laid off. Actually, like three-quarters of us got laid off. Um,
Mm.
so I was like, well, I quit wrestling for this job. Now I don't have this job, so I'm gonna go back to wrestling. And with COVID, there wasn't a lot going on, but TPW ran outside shows. Um, and it was a show that was made up of all guys that I backyarded with as a kid that all, after I became a wrestler, all went on to become wrestlers. So that part was really cool. And it was wild. Like TPW would have bands. It was like a lot of death matches, which were still kind of new to this area, like because people had seen me, and that was about it for years. And
Hell
they
yeah.
were
I used to
doing
be an avid fan of TPW. I mean, oh my god, hardcore fan.
it was really wild. It was really fun. Especially because, like I've known these guys since I was like 16, 17, and stuff like that. And I mean, our referee, me and him used to play football against each other. Like, that was
Oh,
kind of our dynamic, and it was cool to be able to do shows that were less than 30 minutes from my house and not driving 8 to 12 hours places. Um,
right. Being able to go home
uh,
at the end of the night, actually sleep in your own bed.
oh yeah. So in all those aspects, it was really cool. And for a solid while, like everything was going well. I would at one point in time, it was actually the time when I dropped the belt because I had a specific rule. If I'm helping book, then I don't carry a belt. I don't believe in
Okay.
it unless it's just a story that we can't pass up. Like I won't do it. And all that was cool. And then there was just a lot of disagreements once after a certain point. A lot of pulling in multiple directions.
Mm,
And I backed out of the booking picture. And then I left for a little while because I was dealing with a lot of injuries and I couldn't wrestle. Uh, so I left for a little bit. Um, and then when I came back, I don't know what happened while I was gone, but it just was completely different when I came back. Uh, I know part of it was they had lost the venue, and it wasn't anything they did. It was the the insurance to the venue changed and did not want any
oh,
wrestling there
no.
whatsoever. Um,
Okay.
so, but yeah, I mean, love all the guys to death. There's no hard feelings or anything like that, but it's just, I don't know, it all just kind of folded at the end.
All
Loved
good
it while
things
I was
come to an
there.
end, type of thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, and the run they had for, you know, 3, 4 years was solid to
Oh
go from,
yeah.
really nothing to just packing out like this courtyard and this bar for years was pretty wild. And
Yeah.
saw a lot of matchups we didn't ever think we would see from that too. Um, uh, it's one of the only times I ever wrestled Hoodfoot, and it wasn't even in a death match. It was just while we were there.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he started doing death matches right after it, and I was like, dude, we could have totally done one of these.
Oh wow. That's incredible. Jeez. So
But I liked TPW. I was happy to be there.
I love that. And someone that I had, when I had first started watching TBW and everything, that I um, started to just love watching their work happens to be your wife, Sarah Dogs.
Oh God.
How did you guys how did you guys meet? Like, I didn't realize until like kind of diving along, I was like, oh my God, you two are married? Like, that's amazing. Like, so how did that fall into play?
Um, one, we did not like each other when we
Oh my, okay.
met. Yeah. It's funny, we were supposed to meet several times beforehand. We were even in the same place one time and just didn't meet. Um, she used to wrestle on a show in Pennsylvania. Sometimes all the shows get like alphabet soup with me, but it was like R or something, RWA maybe something like that. And she wrestled there 'cause she traveled around with Shane Andrews and Jesse Bell, Smothers for a while, and um so she had met like uh G Raver and Corey and all those guys up there. Well, then when Shane and Jesse got a divorce, I started riding with Shane up there, and Sarah wasn't going up there anymore. So we missed each other there. And but we were the Carnage Cup I was on. Sarah had came with Travis Dykes, They were like best friends and lived in the same town and everything. And Travis wanted to introduce her to me, but she saw G Raver and was like, "Oh my God, Brandon, haven't seen you since RWA, or I think that was what it was called." And Travis was, and at the time I was a very avid partier. So Travis was like, "Brad, you want to come meet my friends?" And I was not in a good headspace to meet anybody. I was not
Right.
in a headspace at all, actually, um, because I was hanging out with the bad kids at the show.
Mm.
Um, and so we didn't meet. And um, then a few years later, or a year later, I don't know. I was I was fighting a lot of personal demons, and um, we just thought we just happened to get booked on the same show together, and it was me and Nina Monet meeting up with her and Travis Dykes and her Sarah's boyfriend at the time, and a couple other people to go to the show called Metal on the Mountain in West Virginia. Um, uh, at the time, Nina was one of the greatest people I know. I will never not take an opportunity to put Nina Monet over. She was trying to handle me, I guess is the best way to put it. She was trying to help get me through a lot of stuff. Uh, and Travis is we're meeting up with them, and Travis is telling everybody in the car, man, just wait till you guys meet Brad. He was just over here. He was just with this big name company. He's so professional. He's been on TV, blah blah blah. And they pull up, and Nina is stressed out outside of my truck smoking a cigarette. And they're like, "Where's Brad?" And she goes, "Oh, he's in the truck." And they open the truck, and I'm just asleep with like 24 beer cans laying next to me. And they get me into the van and start driving me up there. I'm just out cold for like half the trip. And Nina's talking to Sarah and Sarah's boyfriend and all this stuff. And I woke up extremely belligerent and just yelled, "I gotta pee." And, and we're in the interstate, so there's nowhere to go. And I reach over and snatch a bottle out of the guy sitting next to me's hand, and, and I turn and I didn't even know people were in the back seat. And I turn and Sarah's like right there, and I just look at her and I said, "Don't make any funny faces, or I'm not going to be able to pee in this cup." I was like just trying to concentrate, and she just glares at me, and then I was like, "You know what? I'll hold it." And so we get to we get to West Virginia, we get to the show. I'm I'm walking ahead of everybody, and they have pretty big bands there. Like this is like there's like 5,000 people at this fucking thing, and so that means with the 5,000 people there, 4,900 of them were there to see the bands, and the other 100 were there to see the wrestling. But we're walking in, and I'm walking with a couple guys, and their security's going to check us, and I just pull out a knife, and I'm like, "Here you go." I was like, "Sorry, I left this on me," and everybody's like, "Oh my God!" Like, I can't believe he forgot he had a knife on him, and I was like, "Sorry," and I just walk right by them. They're like, "Thank you," and get at the end of the day, I was like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Why didn't you just leave the knife in the car?" And I said, "Oh, I knew security was there. I didn't want to see this." And I raised my shirt up and I had two guns on me because that was just how I traveled at the time. And I was like, if I hand security my knife, they'll think I'm honest and they won't check for guns. Um, and New Jack was there. So Sarah hates me at this point. She's like, this guy's the biggest douchebag in the world. And I was.
Oh my God, this guy sucks. Boo.
And so New Jack's there, and I'm hanging out with New Jack and everything. And Sarah does her match. Uh, they're all thinking like, God, Brad's been barely able to walk since we got here. There's no way he's going to do good. And as soon as my music hits, there I am in all of my Brad Cash glory, I guess. Just, like nothing's wrong. Uh, do the match, hang out with New Jack some more, and um, I don't really smoke weed anymore, but at the time I did, and fans got me in a little smoke circle, and somebody told Sarah they're like, hey, can you watch Brad? Because we're trying to get him clean, and he's a partier. And I get in this smoke circle, and she's like, okay, we go there smoking weed. Like, how bad can it get? And I got this one that tasted really funny. And I
Mm.
pass it off, and then I get another one that tasted funny. And I was like, fuck, this is weird. A few hours later, uh, Nina and Sarah are in full panic mode because they have lost me and cannot find me. And security has came up to them, and my hair was dyed blonde at the time. And securities came up to them, and they were like, "Hey, is one of the wrestlers with you guys that has blonde hair? Because we caught him pissing on Mushroom Head's tour bus." And Nina was like, "Nope, never heard of him," and
Oh
they
my
kind of
god.
like the place was shutting down and everything, and they couldn't find me. Security couldn't find me. Nobody could find me.
Oh my god.
And they walk into this room to go close out their tab, and I'm just sitting there with New Jack. And they were like, "How did you get in here? We've been standing by this door for like 2 hours." And New Jack goes, "He does that." And and I found out later also that while I was in the smoke circle, somebody said, "Hey, try this," and I turned and they handed me PCP. And I had left the smoke circle and was just passing to myself and didn't realize it. Um, so yes, I I don't recommend that to anyone ever. Um, I will never do it again. I didn't even do it on purpose that time. But New Jack had, I guess, grabbed me and like sat me down until like I kind of started making sense while I was talking. Um, and they came and sat down, and Nina sits down, and I'm like, New Jack, I was like, this is my best friend. This is Nina Monet. Just start putting her over, every accolade, every match Nina's ever done. I'm putting her over. And I look at Sarah and I went, I couldn't remember her name. And all I remembered was she told me she was from Baltimore. And I was like, this is Baltimore. And New Jack looks at her and he said, I fucking hate Baltimore. And he goes on like a 20-minute rant about how much he hates the
Oh
city of
my
Baltimore.
god.
And but she just hates everything. She hated me. She never wanted to see me again. Uh, I'd gotten a lot cleaner a couple months later, and we ran into each other at another show and just kind of started talking and hanging out for a little bit and stuff. It was at Dragon Con in Atlanta. It was kind of funny. She was on her way to a big like rave party or Playboy party. I don't know. There's a million parties going on, and I was actually going up to Ric Flair's party, and we just kind of passed each other in the middle. We were like, "Oh, hey, hey," and talked for a minute, and then we started texting, and her boyfriend had split, um, and we just started texting a lot, and oddly enough, she hit on me first, which I did not expect and did not get uh, at all at first. Um, But, before we started like actually dating and stuff, she was like, I have 3 kids. And I was like, okay. And she was like, I just want you to know, like, if we're gonna do this, like, you gotta understand, like, they come first. So that means like no drugs, no crazy, no crazy stuff, whatever. And I was already clean, but like I got what she was saying because I was freshly
Yeah,
clean.
for sure.
Um, and and I was like, yeah. And we dated for like a couple months, just kind of going and seeing each other and stuff. And then she was like, I'm gonna let you meet them, but we're not gonna tell them that we're together yet. She was like, I want to see how they react around you first. Uh, and I met all three kids and just instantly like was like, this is where I want to be. So,
Oh, I love that.
although the I had a different interaction with each kid. So her son, he already knew who I was because he was a wrestling fan, and he actually had a DVD of the Carnage Cup I was on. So he was like, "Oh man, you're a deathmatch wrestler," and so that was easy to win over.
Nice, nice.
Sid, who's the middle child, she I did not know it at the time, but would take on my personality. So she is a fucking handful. Um, but she was very curious when she saw me. She just kind of looked at me, and I just kind of looked at her, and we were just kind of. I was like, "What's this little Wednesday Adams looking girl doing in here?" Um, but like Sid became like I would say Sid's one of not just like child wise, but is one of my best friends to be around. Uh, makes me mad as hell most days, but I I just get her, and for a kid, I think she gets me pretty well. Um, she's she's tough, and then you got Shay, who's the youngest, and and she was really young at the time, and I walk up to her and she was sitting down and she's playing with something or whatever. And just this little girl, like little pigtails and kicking her feet, and I'm like, "Are you Shahira?" And she said, "Yeah." And I said, "Hey, I'm Brad." And she said, "Oh my God, nobody cares." And went back to playing her game.
Oh my
Uh,
God, nobody cares. It's
just the
funny.
spiciest little hobbit I'd ever seen. And she's still very spicy, but uh, the three of them are just I can't put it into words. Like they're just awesome.
I love that. I think it's so amazing how perfect timing happens with how you two ended up liking each other at the perfect time with her not being, with, that, the boyfriend anymore and everything. And I think that's just amazing and how you guys just mesh. And I love to see that. I love to see how, the aligning of things work. Another thing with aligning is someone that you've mentioned quite a bit throughout the interview, of course, is Lane Bloody.
Yeah.
I want to know how you guys have this friendship and something that you guys have coming up, June 19th.
Um, man, it's a lot. We met at IWA Mid South. Actually, before he took his hiatus, when he was at his heaviest, as he says, we met. I don't even remember what show it was. It was one of Ian's like little DVD special shows, like King of the Crimson Mask or something. And we met, and I was like, "Holy shit!" Like, you're at the time Insane Lane. I was like, "Fuck, I've watched you for a long time." And he was like, "You're Brad Cash," and I said, "Yeah," and he was like, "Man, Tank talks about you all the time." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And he goes, "No, usually you're the butt of all his jokes." I went, "I know. That's how we talk." But
That's
but
amazing.
but we got along. I actually took a picture of us. It's funny because Lane is like covered in blood, as Lane does, and I am covered in blue and red paint because I went to a War concert the night and didn't get to sleep from the concert to the show, so I showed up with all the paint and stuff still all over me. Uh, but we hit it off, and then we didn't see each other for a while, and then I was at a Slayer concert and just happened to run into Lane while I was there, and somebody was getting me better tickets, and I told Lane, I was like, "Do you want my tickets so you can move up closer? Because somebody's getting me tickets to the floor." And he was like, "Yeah, if you don't mind." I was like, "No, here you go." So we hit it off a little bit more after that, and then I get hit up by Ian to do this. It's a mystery show. I hadn't been on IWA in a few years at this point,
Hmm.
and he was like, "Okay, Lane is going to be driving up. He'll just pick you up on the way." I thought, "Okay, cool." And it was very kayfabe. We weren't supposed to say anything about who was on it. We none of us even knew. Me and Lane just knew because he was picking me up. And he showed up to the house, and I was like, "Holy shit, you've gotten skinny." And he was in great shape, and he picks me up, and we're riding. We had been talking, before the show came up. We didn't even know we were wrestling each other that night. And we're just talking, listening to music. I'm really big on eating gummy worms and gummy bears on the way to shows, and he had bought this giant bag of it because he remembered me talking about it. And we're talking about certain stuff. We're talking about troublemaking that both of us had gotten in early in our careers or being too wild. We had talked about, this guy, and music and movies and all this stuff. We just really got along. And we get there and we find out we're wrestling each other. And I got excited. But Lane had gotten told beforehand he was going to wrestle Ricky Shane Page. So Lane was upset. And then he was like, "Fuck, I guess I can have a good match with Brad." I was like, I was like, "Yeah, but not as good as that one would have been."
Oh
And
my God. What
and then Ian was like, "I'm also going to give a bonus to whoever has the bloodiest match or whoever gets the best color." And when he said that, everybody there went, "Fuck." And Lane's like, "What?" And they're like, Brad always gets the best color when we have the bonus." And they're like, "Because he cheats, he'll just cut till he's got the best color." And, um, but we go out there, and Lane had wrestled in a while, and and this was my first time being back at IWA. So we were walking into unknown territory with each other, and I love that match. That match was brutal. It was bloody. We won the bloodiest match by the
hell
way,
yeah.
because I 110% made sure that we were semi so that we could go later, and because Ricky and Mance were on first, and I kept asking SPO. I was like, "Hey, how's my color?" And he's like, "Not as good as Mance's." And I was like, "All right, hang on." Lane would hit me with a tube, and I'd be like, "How about now?" And he's like, "You're getting there." I'm like, "Okay, let me
You're
know
getting there.
let me know when I've won." So, and SPO was like, "I got you, brother. I got you." But it was fun. There's a lot of funny moments to that match too. They had a pool of alcohol in it, and Lane didn't know what to do with the pool of alcohol because we hadn't used it, and I was like, "I don't want to get thrown in it." And he said he didn't either, so he puts it in his hands, and he thought I saw it coming, and he just throws it in my face, and it went in my eyes.
Oh my God.
And he was like, "Why are you selling that so good?" And I was like, "I can't see, motherfucker."
Like, brother, I am blind now. Thank you.
But and at the end, he puts the barbed wire on my head, hits me in the head with a chair, and hits me with his finisher. So I didn't tell him, but we have a strict rule here at the house because I've had a ton of concussions and other stuff. I don't take chair shots to the head. I didn't tell him, and I didn't think that him and my wife were going to meet at the house. I didn't think anything about it. And I get home and I lay down on the couch and him and her just sitting there talking. And she was like, "How was it?" And he was like, "I was great. I put a crown of thorns on his head and then hit him in the head with a chair." And she goes, "Did you now?" And I can hear this conversation, so I just roll over and pretend like I'm asleep. I'm like, I
Oh,
want five
oh,
minutes
oh
before you
God.
go. And, and,
If I sleep, it'll just go away. I won't hear it until the morning.
so we
Oh,
became
shit.
friends after that. Started traveling together. Uh, he's gotten to know my kids. I've met both of his. Uh, he's crashed here. I've crashed there. We talk almost every day. Uh, and when this match coming up got announced, um, we knew Lane was doing it. We knew like he was getting the 20th anniversary Razor Wire match. Well, Kevin had told him like three different people who his opponent might be, and I just got told I was on the show. Like I didn't, I didn't know anything else. And then I get a message from Kevin that says it's gonna be you and Lane. I fucking hate Razor Wire, by the way, and I'm like, well, that's the only way I'll do it then, is if it's with Lane. And he hears from Kevin. I'm sitting here and I'm like this is gonna be another Ricky Shane page moment. And we were talking and he just kind of sat there for a minute and he was like, "Fuck, man." He was like, "I guess it makes sense." And I'm like, "Oh, thank God." Okay, he's in a good mood about it. Um, but no, it's a lot. We we've been talking. It's one of those things where it's like when me and him talk about it, you feel kind of like I don't know the way to describe it. You can tell that this is something big when we
Yeah.
talk about it with each other. Because I've been real quiet on social media just because I got a bunch of personal stuff going on with me. But uh, when we talk about it, I don't know. It almost feels like I hate using the term like gladiators, but it feels like two gladiators that know
Yeah.
like, hey, like this is the final fight, and it's the two of us against each other kind of thing. You know,
Excuse me.
it's just it's not really describable. Uh, Actually, when I cut that promo the other day, the hairs on my own arm stood up. So, yeah, and
I remember hearing that, and it made, like, I had goosebumps the entire promo you cut. I was like, damn, that's fucking incredible.
yeah, yeah, I'm definitely nervous. I think this is the most nervous I've been for a match in a really long time. Um, but man, I guess if I wasn't nervous, it wouldn't really mean as much, I guess.
Right. Well, I'm definitely, I wish I could be there. I was really trying to get, there and everything. Guys, if you want to go there, it is June 19th, Panama City, IWA Deep South, Blood at the Beach. Oh my God, I cannot wait to hear and see clips Like, because like you said, I mean, it feels like so big. Like, just like that anticipation of like, getting on like a huge roller coaster or something, like getting to the
Yeah.
top. Like, I can't wait. I want to know, with all the matches you've had so far, maybe like a couple, what are some of your favorites that you've had?
Um, the one with Lane at Tournament of Death is number one. Um, I've wrestled Masada 3 times, but the first one that we did at the Anarchy building was one of my favorites. Uh, I did a feud with Abyss in 2016, and
Yep.
when we got to the finale of that one, it was a big cage match, and there was something special about that night. The match is good. The match is really good. I mean, we did all his moves, all my moves, but there was just I don't know, there was something more to it that night. So that one's up there. Um, Me and Remington Roar
Mm.
at God of Death. Uh, fuck, I don't remember which God of Death it was, but um, he's one of my favorite opponents. Um, it's something about the dynamic and the chemistry, and me and him have kind of like the friendship that me and Lane have. Like we just really, really click. Uh, and in the same sense, I wrestled Lilith Grimm that same year, and me and her really enjoyed our match. Um, so all those, plus just some non-death matches. Me and Anthony Henry is one that sticks out to me. Uh, and Too Cold Scorpio.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
Too Cold is a hard-hitting motherfucker. I thought he knocked me out 8 times in that match. Cool as shit though. Um, I don't know, there's so many. I've tried sometimes. I'm really big on making lists, and I try to like narrow it down, and then I'll be like, oh, fuck, I forgot this one. I forgot this one. There's a lot of matches I really enjoyed with a lot of different people, and 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 whether it was something about like the match itself was emotional or everything just clicked or whatever. Another big one for me was when I finally got the main event, a hardcore hell at Anarchy. It's kind of like their WrestleMania, and
Yeah.
that was the only pay-per-view of theirs I'd never main evented. So when I finally got to do that one, it was big, and I had Nina out there with me, which was always really cool. Um, yeah, there's too many for me to narrow down because I'm gonna feel like I'm not giving certain matches justice if I do that.
I mean, that's a fantastic list, though. Are there some people that are on your list of, who you'd still like to face and, promotions that you'd like to, do a match in?
As far as people I want to face, I've got 2 unicorns that have just been avoiding me like forever. Not that
Okay.
they've been avoiding me, just the matches themselves have just never came to. Eddie Kingston, I wanted to wrestle Eddie Kingston forever, and I thought we were going to an IWA, and it just never happened. Because I felt like we were really similar in a lot of things, and Eddie talks and I talk. Like Eddie's a talker in the ring, I'm a talker in the ring, so I feel like that'd be a good dynamic. I've wanted to wrestle Masato Tanaka since I got into wrestling, and I just feel like it's never it's never gonna happen. But I'm also not the type to just like I won't hit a promoter up and be like, hey, do this, blah blah blah. I'll pay for
Right.
this, whatever. Like uh, if there's an option, like if they're saying they're bringing someone in, I'll message and be like, hey, I'm just throwing my name in the hat. Or if someone's like, hey, we're trying to get, this guy some bookings. Do you think you can help him out? Then I'll hit up the promoter and be like, hey, can we bring him in? I've been wanting to face him, blah, 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 stuff like that. But those are two. Um, there's a few guys that I never wrestled. I never wrestled Nick Gage. Um, let's see. I know I made one of those lists one time where I was like, yeah, I've always wanted to wrestle this guy. And then he messaged me and he's like, Brad, we have wrestled. I'm like, oh shit, my bad. Uh, I've never had a singles match with Necro, so that would have been cool. But I don't know. Like I got people that I haven't wrestled and people that I'll never wrestle, um, or never get a chance to wrestle. But I wrestled so many people that were so much more talented than I am, uh, that or they were like just finding themselves at the time, and now they're off doing like bigger shit. So like yeah, I'm happy with the people that I've wrestled.
You've definitely had an amazing career. I would love to know, do you think Southern Ultraviolence gets enough credit?
No,
I agree completely.
it it doesn't, and I could give you a 7-day rant as to why it doesn't, but I'll just stick to my answer. No, it does not.
And, I definitely, as someone who's really found a true love for the Southern Ultraviolence scene, I think it definitely does not get enough credit. And that's why, I'm a huge advocate for deathmatch wrestling in general, but when it comes to the Southern Ultraviolence scene, I will badger into people's heads until, my knuckles bleed. Like, so I completely agree with you. I
I
want
think. Oh, sorry.
no, no, please, please,
Um,
please.
um, Southern wrestling. I don't know the ultra-violent side. I feel like is is a subtext to just the division of like the northern wrestling and southern wrestling, just like West Coast leans to more lucha style because Mexico and all that.
Mhm.
And I think northern wrestling was always about perfecting, trying to be perfect, trying to every move's going to be perfect, so it's very spot heavy, very whatever. Southern wrestling, and this is without deathmatch. Southern wrestling has always been built on storytelling, and that's why back in the day, even way before my time, you had the Von Erichs and the Freebirds, and then you'd go to Atlanta, you'd go to Florida, you'd go to all these areas, the Mid South areas, and it was all storytelling, and that's what people
Mhm.
tuned into. Uh, and I think that the ultra violence is the same way. Down here, we're storytellers. Um, so it doesn't matter if I have one light tube or 1,000 light tubes. I'm going to tell a story with this. Um, I don't need, a Southern ultraviolence card doesn't need light tubes in every match. It doesn't need, you know, uh, it doesn't need every weapon in every match. You give us a stipulation, we'll tell you a story. You go home happy, we go home happy. Um, and the saddest part and a lot of it's just, behind the times stuff like streaming and stuff like that, is there's so many Southern ultra violent guys and just hardcore wrestlers that no one outside of those of us that were around them is gonna ever know their name on YouTube and stuff like that and realize how good these guys were.
Yeah.
Because there's some guys that I've wrestled down here in death matches and hardcore matches, just like little one-off matches, that were some of the best opponents I've ever faced, and they just never got a chance otherwise because they were Southern guys.
That's wow. Thank you for, elaborating with that and everything. And I do feel like it should get more credit than what it does in wrestling in general, but especially with the ultraviolet scene too.
Yeah.
I want to know, what does deathmatch wrestling mean to you?
Oh man, I I remember you asked Lane this question, and I had an answer right then, and I figured it was coming. Um, so I'm gonna give you a weird answer, and
Okay.
because it's something I actually saw in a movie one time, and it for some reason this line resonates so much with me in general. Um, but it's two answers: nothing and everything.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah,
That's a very solid answer. Honestly, I like it.
yeah.
Very good. So another thing that I ask everybody is, what is your Mount Rushmore for, the normal standard style of wrestling and your deathmatch Mount Rushmore?
Oh God. Are we talking about favorites or are we talking about like that's the GOAT? Um, because
I
my
think everyone
opinion
kind
is
of answers it differently. I mean, you can definitely, mesh it if you'd like, if you want to add some favorites and then, certified goats of each. You are more than welcome to do it however you'd like.
man, um all right. I'll give you my Mount Rushmore. Because it's probably gonna be the weirdest Mount Rushmore you've heard.
Okay.
Bradshaw,
Ooh.
um, Butch Reed, Haku, and I'll go Masato Tanaka actually. And the reason I say that is because those before that, when I watched their matches, even though a lot of Butch Reed was before my time, but he was still wrestling when I was younger. Is they were the four that once I learned wrestling was a work, I still believed. Like you
Mm.
couldn't convince me that they weren't actually just killing these guys. So
That's a
that's my
solid Mount Rushmore.
that's
Wow.
my Mount Rushmore for standard wrestling.
That's a
Um,
solid list. Wow.
and then my deathmatch Mount Rushmore. I gotta put Masada on there. Uh, mainly so he doesn't message me and say I can't believe you didn't put me on your Mount Rushmore. Nah, in my personal opinion, Masada is the best one. Uh, uh, let's go with. I think I gotta go with uh, Chungasai.
Mm.
Um, and again, it's for the almost the same reason as the others. Just I can't question their legitimacy when I watch them. And that being said, I gotta go Necro Butcher, same reason. And then you know what? On my fourth one, uh, I hope he doesn't see this because he will let me put him over, go to his head. But I'm gonna put Tank as my fourth one because Tank was such a pillar for Southern ultraviolence and was the one that helped take it up north and you know get it out there a lot. And I could put Lane in the same conversation, same with Iceberg, Mickey, all of them, but I guess Tank. I guess because he's so fucking old, I gotta go with Tank. Um, but that's that. And if I could add one more Mount Rushmore, would be female wrestlers.
Hell yeah, please.
Because I feel like they don't get added to enough Mount Rushmores. Awesome Kong, my favorite female wrestler, hands down. Uh, and these aren't necessarily like like who I think was the greatest of all time, but who like they meant a lot to me. Roxy Laveau was one.
Mm.
Then uh, Daphne for sure. Um, and then the last one. Uh, See, I have to be careful. I'm picking who the fourth one is, so I don't get heat with my wife because she will drill me on who my favorite female
Regardless,
wrestler is.
honorable mention is the wife. Regardless,
Oh no,
above all else is the favorite.
she'll she'll get mad at me if I put her in it. She'll be like, good and well, blah 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 blah. This woman should have been in there.
No.
Um, Man, there's so many great female wrestlers. Man, it's kind of cliche, but I think I gotta go with Alondra Blaze. It's definitely like gonna be like her or uh, yeah, I'm going with her because she was one of the first ones I can think of that added that style that a lot of women have now, like almost like the old TNA Knockouts division, like Gail Kim.
Yes.
A lot of them were based on Alondra Blaze. Like she would have killed it there. So I think I think that's my four right there.
Those are all very, very solid. Very
Uh,
solid.
I loved Awesome Kong. I thought she was great, and I actually when I started doing the Call to Cash gimmick years ago, was trying to find something to make me a little different, just some little mannerism, and I don't tell a lot of people this, but would watch how Roxy Laveau, when she was doing the Voodoo Queen, how she would walk, and I stole it. I was like, nobody's gonna expect me to steal that from a woman, so I would do the little hip swivel and hands out walk kind of thing when I was walking around, just so people would be like, man, that guy's weird as fuck.
Like, what the fuck? Okay. But those are all very solid Mount Rushmores for sure. I would like to take this time to ask you some non wrestling related type of questions and find out some
Okay.
of your favorite things. I want to know what kinds of movies that you like. Maybe like some that are like in your wheelhouse. Of like, oh yeah, I love this one. Love this one.
I'm a fucking nerd. I love Lord of the Rings with a passion. I mean, my wedding ring is the Ring of Power.
Oh my god, how awesome!
I and I can't pick between the three of the original trilogy. To me, I just count them as one movie. It's my favorite by far. And The Hobbit. And uh, so outside of those, I love just great story movies, but I grew up on Shaft. I watched a lot of Shaft growing up. So big Shaft fan. Uh, Rocky, of course. You know, uh, there was one movie. It's not very popular, but it was called Cowboy Way with
Okay.
Woody Harrelson and Kiefer Sutherland. And I think as far as just like standalone random movies, that's probably my favorite um, of those. And if I don't say it, once again, my wife will call me out on it. Another one of my favorite movies, because I grew up in a house full of women, so I can quote this movie from beginning to end, is Still Magnolias.
Very nice. Very nice.
I can unfortunately quote that movie without thinking about it.
That's great. So next, I want to know with music, what are some of like artists, bands that you like? You know, genres of music that you're into.
I I like I like a little bit of everything. I haven't liked as much new stuff that's came out in general, except here recently. Here recently, I've liked a little bit more. I do have that fucking Pink Pony Club song stuck in my head daily now. But um, like I really like War. Um, but I don't know. I'm still all over the place. I like a lot of 90s rap music. Um, uh, I grew up listening to like, Outkast and No Limit Soldiers and 3 6 Mafia.
Yes.
But I also love outlaw country music. I also love a lot of metal. Uh, One of my favorite metal bands to go see is actually one that's from here called Summoner Circle. They're insane to go see live. They're just a fucking killer black metal band. I like a little bit of everything. If it sounds good, I like it.
Perfect. I love that. I can definitely relate to that. From everything to like rap to pop to scary metal music. Love it.
Oh yeah.
I want to know what are some pastimes that you like. I did see something on your Instagram that was very intriguing. That you or we're talking about doing like some Renaissance fairs. You're doing like hammer holding and stuff like that.
Yes. Um, yeah, I like medieval and fantasy stuff. So
Hell yeah.
I like going to Renaissance fairs, things like that. But actually, they wanted me to come out and do like an actual competition with that soon with the hammer hold thing. So we'll see. I don't know. There's some big dudes there, so we'll see. But I like that. I don't get to do it as often now because I'm on a shoot job and stuff and everything. But I like to read. So a lot of times, like while I'm at work or whenever I can, I'll throw something on and just listen to it. Which I listen to Creekcast a lot now, which is short stories, so that one's easy to listen to while I'm working. Like music, gaming. I just kind of like to just chill when I'm not wrestling.
Nice.
I'm actually really quiet sometimes.
I like that. And last, I want to know, do you have like a favorite like sweet or savory snack that you like? And if you're not really a snack type of guy, do you have like a favorite food?
Uh, Gummy bears. That's my favorite road snack. Ah, God, I'm a slut for chocolate. I
Yes.
can, I'm a chocolatier at heart. Uh, Man, my favorite candy was remember Bunch of Crunch? Like
Yes.
yeah, that is hands down my favorite.
Oh, hell yeah.
Uh, and then favorite foods, I like hot wings, but
Ooh.
man, it's weird 'cause like I like spaghetti, but I have to make it. Uh, or
Okay.
chili, like I like chili, but I have to make it. But just so favorites in general, hot wings, and I really like fish. I'm big like seafood across the board. I'll
Okay.
typically pick over everything. I had seafood tonight, actually.
Right on. Out of like all the seafood type of stuff, like, do you have a favorite that you like?
Uh, crawfish, definitely up there. God, when I went to New Orleans a couple years ago, I was in heaven. Um, shrimp. My wife makes she makes a homemade jambalaya that I that's what we had tonight, and I think I ate like three bowls. I can't stop once I start eating it. Hers is so good. Um, but yeah, just seafood in general. I don't think there's a seafood I don't like.
Oh yeah. Oh, well, Brad, thank you so much for doing this. This has been a lot of fun getting to know you and, talking about your wrestling career and your history. It's been honestly a true pleasure doing this. Honestly, thank you so much for doing this. I would love for you to take the time to plug yourself, tell everyone where they can find you on social media, where they can get your merch, and what you have coming up next.
Well, I have IWA Deep South June 19th out at the beach. Razor wire match with Lane Bloody. Um, that's going to be something special. As far as my merch, uh, you can either just catch it live or message me on Facebook or whatever. I I've been taking breaks from social media, so instead of plugging all those, you can go find all of Lane Bloody's social medias. You can find all of my wife's social medias and where she works with animals too. So you can go find Sarah Kirkland on Facebook or Young Williams to uh, either donate or help adopt or foster animals. That's where she works. Um, yeah, that's it.
Again, thank you so much for doing this. It honestly was a true pleasure getting to know you. This honestly is a dream of mine. So thank you so much again for doing this. And you guys, you can find me on TikTok, Kakeface_Karlee, Instagram, Kakeface_Karlee 2.0, and of course here on the X Brand Wrestling YouTube channel. Again, Brad, thank you so much for joining me today. And you guys, thank you so much for watching. But until next time, okay, thanks. Bye.